This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the voices on the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm news anchor Sarah Harnisch, and with me today, Focus on the Family political writer Zachary Mettler. We're talking defunding Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is a behemoth, 400,000 abortions a year, and that's up since the overturning of Roe versus Wade in 2022. 23 states have filed a lawsuit asking the court to block the defunding of Planned Parenthood. Zach, can you tell me what's going on?
You bet, Sarah. Well, July 4th, the One Big Beautiful Bill, finally, after years of pro-life activists advocating for the defunding of Planned Parenthood, finally we scored that victory on July 4th. That was something that we couldn't even accomplish in 2015 after all those undercover videos of Planned Parenthood selling aborted baby body parts came out. So it was a monumental victory for the pro-life movement. But now there's a judge in Massachusetts who has ruled that the Congress and the president cannot defund Planned Parenthood through a law. And so this is a truly crazy judicial ruling, and I think, honestly, one of the most crazy acts of judicial tyranny that I've ever seen happen in American history.
At the root of the whole thing is money that's going to Planned Parenthood. This is federal money, so it's taxpayer money. So people that don't support abortions, their taxes are going to the government. That cash is going to Planned Parenthood, and that's what this entire issue is about, is should federal money be going to this organization? How much federal cash goes to Planned Parenthood?
It's honestly a breathtaking amount. Just last year, there was almost $800 million in Medicaid reimbursements and government grants that went to Planned Parenthood just last year alone. And you think about that, over the last 10 years or so, Planned Parenthood has received literally billions and billions of dollars in federal taxpayer money. So our taxpayer dollars have been going to subsidize the abortion business, and Planned Parenthood is our nation's largest abortion provider. So you have this insane amount of cash that, while it technically doesn't go to pay for abortions directly, every single dollar that Planned Parenthood gets subsidizes their abortion business, right? All money is fungible. So any dollar they get, it helps them run their business. It helps them expand their locations, the amount of services that they can offer. So every dollar that they get subsidizes the killing of preborn children. Thankfully, now they've been defunded by this big, beautiful bill, but really whether or not that's actually going to happen is up to the legal proceedings that are currently playing out, especially in Massachusetts.
Let's talk about both of those. There are actually two lawsuits, not one. The first was by Judge Indira Talwani, and that happened days after the big, beautiful bill passed on July 4th. That ruling was in favor of Planned Parenthood. Was that legal?
Not according to my reading of it. You know, the Planned Parenthood, it was just a couple days after the big, beautiful bill passed that they filed the lawsuit. And then after the lawsuit was filed, literally hours later, Judge Indira Talwani, she's a district judge on the District Court of Massachusetts, without even hearing opposing arguments, without hearing the other side, she instantly sided with Planned Parenthood and said that the Trump administration must, while the lawsuit plays out, keep funding Planned Parenthood. And, you know, this provision of defunding Planned Parenthood in the One Big Beautiful Bill, it only lasts for 1 year. So Planned Parenthood, their goal is to run out the clock. If they can essentially override the will of the American people for 1 year through delaying these legal proceedings, they will override the will of the American people just by having the Trump administration tied up in court here. And so I think that's their strategy, is just to allow the administration to just get hamstrung in court. And their arguments from reading the lawsuit, honestly, they're the most crazy arguments that I think I've ever seen. They're arguing that the defund Planned Parenthood provision is a bill of attainder, which is a legislative provision that punishes a group or a person for alleged crimes without due process. She just instantly accepted that argument from Planned Parenthood. But think about this. Bills of attainders, they're unconstitutional. The Constitution prohibits those things. But if defunding an organization is a quote-unquote punishment, then anytime Congress ever defunded anything, that could be seen as an unconstitutional bill of attainder. And so the legal arguments here are just absolutely, truly, they have no standing. And I think hopefully as the appeals play out, as this case has already been appealed to the First Circuit Court of Appeals, hopefully we will see common sense prevail. Now, I'm a little skeptical of that because the First Circuit is certainly one of the most liberal appeals courts in the country. There's 5 active judges on the First Circuit right now, and all of them have been appointed by Democrat presidents. One of them, Judge Rickleman, she was actually a pro-abortion lawyer for a while. She was appointed by President Biden. And so I'm hopeful that the First Circuit will see reason and see this lawsuit for what it is. But will that actually happen? I guess we'll have to wait and see.
What about this other lawsuit, the 23 states? What's going on with that?
Yeah, there's 23 states that have filed this lawsuit that somehow this defunding provision of Planned Parenthood is unconstitutional. They filed that lawsuit. They were led by Attorney General Letitia James from New York. They filed that lawsuit also in the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts. And there's 11 judges on the district court that can hear cases. And whenever a lawsuit is filed in one of those courts, it's supposed to be assigned to a random judge. And again, there's 11 judges. But the second Planned Parenthood lawsuit was also assigned to Judge Talwani, who was the judge in the first case. And so what are the odds of that happening? I don't know, but it does seem a little coincidental that both lawsuits, one from Planned Parenthood and one from the attorneys general, alleging that this provision defunding Planned Parenthood is unconstitutional, has gone to the same judge. And so we'll see where that one lays out.
Abortions aren't the only thing that Planned Parenthood is doing. Talk to me about their work with the transgender movement.
Yeah. Well, this is something that I think most people probably don't realize, and it's honestly a new occurrence. You know, you don't think of transgender procedures like puberty-blocking drugs or opposite-sex hormones, which really harm our children. You don't think about Planned Parenthood being a distributor of those things, but they are. They've gotten into this business in recent years. Planned Parenthood is now our nation's second largest provider of hormone therapy to adolescents. A study by the Manhattan Institute, they found that nearly 40,000 people went to Planned Parenthood for opposite-sex hormones in 2023 alone. And about 40% of those individuals were between the ages of 18 and 22. So you have adolescents and young adults who are now flocking to Planned Parenthood to get transgender procedures that harm and mutilate their bodies. And what that has to do with parenthood, I have no idea, right? It doesn't have anything to do with parenthood, but Planned Parenthood has decided that they've got to get into this business, I think for some extra cash. You know, Planned Parenthood, their financial numbers are absolutely crazy.
What happens next?
I think in terms of the lawsuit, hopefully, again, the First Circuit will strike down a lawsuit by Judge Indira Talwani. I think they'll overrule her, I hope. And if not, then I think that lawsuit needs to be quickly appealed to the Supreme Court. I think the Supreme Court has to step in and say that, no, judges cannot overrule the will of the American people. This defunding Planned Parenthood provision has been advocated for by pro-life activists for years. It's been enacted by an act of Congress. It is now the law. It was signed by the president, and Congress absolutely has the right and the ability to fund or defund whatever they choose. This is really Congress's prerogative, right? Under the Constitution, under Article 1, Section 9, Congress has the power of the purse. They're able to fund or not fund whatever they so choose. And so to have one single district judge out of 700 of them saying that Congress doesn't have the ability to defund Planned Parenthood is absolutely crazy, and I hope it's overturned very quickly.
Why is a win in court so critical to the pro-life cause?
That's a great question. A win in court is super critical because Planned Parenthood, again, they receive about $800 million of taxpayer money every single year, and that subsidizes their business, killing 400,000 preborn children. Planned Parenthood is an abortion business. They performed, again, over 400,000 abortions last year. That was an increase of 10,000 from the previous year, an increase of 23% from 2013. And, you know, for every abortion they provide, they only refer for adoption. 187 abortions is one adoption referral. And we've also seen total services from Planned Parenthood since 2013 have dropped 10%. Cancer screenings and prevention services have dropped 54%, including declines of 61% for breast exams and 54% for Pap tests. And prenatal services are also down 63%. So Planned Parenthood, they keep doing less and less services, less and less actual health care, and more abortions. And every single dollar that Planned Parenthood gets subsidizes their abortion business. And so it's a really important thing for the authority of Congress to be recognized, to be able to defund Planned Parenthood. And I also hope that legislators next year, because this lawsuit has really just tried to stall Congress's ability to defund Planned Parenthood, I hope legislators next year will defund Planned Parenthood for at least one more year, right? I think they have to add that provision into next year's budget bill because of the legal shenanigans, if you will, that Planned Parenthood is pulling here.
It seems like it's a critical moment in history as well. I mean, the chess pieces are lined up. on the chessboard. You've got a conservative president who is not supportive of abortion. You've got a conservative Congress. You've got a conservative Supreme Court. We've had many favorable pro-faith rulings in the last couple of months. And it's like everything is lined up. We've waited decades for some of this to be dialed back in the United States, and we actually have a chance to do it right now with everything. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. For the pro-life movement, in terms of defunding Planned Parenthood, this is really a now or never moment. We either defund Planned Parenthood now, this year, and hopefully again next year, or it will probably never, ever happen. I think this is why this moment is so crucial. I think this comes back down to a question of who rules, right? Do the American people rule themselves through their elected representatives and through the president, or do federal judges rule the American people and they decide where our taxpayer dollars can and cannot go? The easy answer for that is that the American people rule themselves. So no, federal judges do not rule us. We direct where our taxpayer dollars go through our elected representatives. That needs to be upheld here in this case. Your and my hard-earned taxpayer dollars are not going to subsidize the abortion business of Planned Parenthood.
Learn more at focusonthefamily.com.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.